After Broadcom CEO Hock bought software giant VMware for $69 billion, he hosted a coffee chat to get to know its people. An employee asked if the company's $1,000 well-being allowance would continue. Hock's response silenced the room. "No, I'm not your dad." Just weeks later, Hock fired half of VMware's workforce. This story exemplifies the paradox that is Broadcom, a $1.5 trillion AI powerhouse run like a ruthless private equity firm. Despite becoming more valuable this year than Meta and Tesla, almost no one can explain what Broadcom actually does. I thought that was totally fascinating, so I decided to dig into its story. What I discovered is a business not with customers, but hostages, that's run by tech's most cutthroat CEO, who is now behind a multi-trillion-dollar power struggle for custom chips that's threatening Nvidia's monopoly. It's a mind-blowing story, and I cannot wait to share it with you. Broadcom is the reason we recently saw Nvidia lose hundreds of billions in market value, and I'll get to that. But first we have to understand the man who turned a random HP spinoff into one of the best performing tech stocks ever, Hock. He's a 74-year-old finance shark who frequently ranks among the world's highest paid CEOs. Hock grew up on an island off the coast of Malaysia during a violent guerrilla war, but little beyond that is known about his childhood. What we do know is that he was brilliant, earning a scholarship to MIT before getting an MBA from Harvard. By starting his career in finance roles at corporate giants like GM and Pepsi, Hock learned the more traditional side of the business world. Eventually, he got into tech, becoming VP of Finance for legendary PC maker Commodore International before running a chip company called ICS, which was sold for $1.7 billion. This deal put him on the radar of private equity giants like KKR and Silver Lake. They saw Hock as the perfect attack dog against inefficiency. So in 2006, they hired him to run a struggling company called Avago. It was a spinoff from HP that made optical components for printers and mice. His mandate at Avago was simple: reduce bloat and cut costs. One story encapsulates how tightly Hock controls his ship. When he planned a company offsite, Hock skipped the fancy resort and open bar. He booked a local airport hotel instead and didn't even arrange food or water for his executives. This frugal, no-nonsense attitude became the DNA of the company, and it explains how Broadcom became what it is today. In 2016, Avago bought the original Broadcom for $37 billion, inheriting its name, but keeping the stock ticker AVGO. Now, Broadcom wasn't a sexy buy. It made the stuff everyone needs but never thinks about, like networking chips and storage controllers. After absorbing Broadcom, Hock looked to mobile chip giant Qualcomm next. He tried to buy it for a whopping $117 billion, and what would have been the biggest tech deal of all time, but President Trump blocked it over national security concerns. Now, this was a turning point. Hock realized he was now too big to buy more chip companies, so he pivoted to his second favorite industry, which was boring enterprise software. Hock's strategy for buying software businesses is all about identifying mispriced opportunities, and today's sponsor, Kalshi, will give you $10 to try that strategy for yourself when you sign up for the platform using code Michael. Kalshi is the largest regulated prediction market in the United States, where you can legally trade on real-world outcomes in tech, finance, and sports in 50 states. Since I spend so much of my time studying tech and markets, I've started using Kalshi to monetize my knowledge in ways I couldn't on the stock market. So I'm going to walk you guys through a few of my recent predictions on the platform. I recently took a yes position on OpenAI announcing an IPO this year, where I stand to roughly triple my money. I'm already up 13% and I can cash out at any time. With over $1 trillion in AI infrastructure commitments, an IPO is a necessity for Sam Altman, and I don't think the odds are currently reflecting this. I'm also eyeing a long shot trade on XAI having a top-ranked AI model this month. The company is expected to drop Grok 4.2 in the next few weeks, and it could deliver a surprise even though it's not a brand new model. If I'm right, I stand to 10x my money, so I thought the risk reward here matched up with the upcoming release of this new product. If you want to put your edge to work on Kalshi, just hit the link in my description or scan this QR code and you'll get that $10 bonus if you deposit $100 to trade. Now, let's get back to the story of Broadcom. Hock went on a buying spree of massive software companies like CA Technologies, Symantec, and VMware. These businesses now account for 40% of Broadcom's total revenue, and their gross profit margins have Hock's touch all over them. His playbook is buying franchises. These are businesses deeply embedded in large organizations like hospitals and banks, where the switching costs are effectively infinite. Because the customer can't leave, the product is bought, not sold. So Hock immediately cuts product lines and sales teams to juice margins while simultaneously raising prices, VMware being a a prime example. The result is that Broadcom's software division has mythical gross margins of 93%. While it's not growing, it's a stable cash cow for the business. Hock is no doubt a brutal operator, but if you've owned Avago stock, Hock has made you disgustingly rich, delivering 10x returns since 2020. And the recent AI boom is a huge reason for that growth, which isn't slowing down. Broadcom's Q3 earnings beat analysts' expectations on every major metric. While Nvidia gets all the credit for the AI boom, Broadcom makes the essential plumbing that makes it possible. When you build a massive AI data center, you can't just buy 100,000 Nvidia GPUs and plug them into a wall. You have to connect the chips together so they act as one giant brain, and that's where Broadcom dominates. They specialize in networking chips, specifically Ethernet switches like the Tomahawk and Jericho series. They're important because in AI, the biggest enemy is something called tail latency. If you have all these expensive GPUs working on a training run and one data packet gets delayed, the entire multi-billion-dollar cluster stalls. Broadcom's chips are effectively the only ones with deep buffer memory capable of preventing these stalls. That's why they hold 90% market share in this type of switching chip, and almost every major AI data center depends on them. But with so much at stake right now, Broadcom and Nvidia are butting heads like never before. Nvidia wants to control the entire computing stack, including networking, through its InfiniBand standard. Broadcom, on the other hand, wants AI to run on open standards like Ethernet. So they helped found the Ultra Ethernet Consortium to lobby against Nvidia's walled garden, and they brought in supporters like AMD, Cisco, and Microsoft. Now, this strategy directly supports the other side of Broadcom's business, which is custom AI chips. By ensuring Ethernet can handle AI, Broadcom empowers customers to connect their own chips using standard gear rather than Nvidia's. And that brings us to the most important part of Broadcom's story. It should be made clear that Broadcom is not an Nvidia killer, it's more so the perfect Nvidia hedge. Right now, every major tech company is addicted to Nvidia's GPUs, and at $30,000 each, Jensen Huang is enjoying some huge profit margins. Now, technically, this is a win-win setup for Broadcom. If Nvidia keeps winning and AI keeps growing, Broadcom makes billions selling the networking switches needing to connect all these chips. But if big tech wants out of Nvidia's pricing, Broadcom is winning there too. The fastest growing part of their business is becoming the arms dealer, helping Google, Meta, and OpenAI design their own silicon to break free from Nvidia. Broadcom has worked with Google since 2016 on the TPU, the chip that trained Gemini 3 and caused a market stir, sending Nvidia stock tanking in November. These custom chips have helped Gemini 3 become the top AI model, and they explain why the market so overwhelmingly believes Gemini is going to be the first model to reach the elusive 1500 ranking on Chatbot Arena. And recently, Broadcom began working on an inference chip for OpenAI. The ripple effects are huge. For each custom chip, Broadcom makes roughly 50% gross margins. If Google's TPU program generates $30 billion in sales, $15 billion flows straight into Broadcom's pockets. But this is already creating tension. Hock's prices are so high that Google is already looking for an escape hatch. They're starting to work with Taiwanese chipmaker MediaTek as a secondary design partner. And it's not just customers growing wary of Hock strategies. Investors dumped Broadcom stock in mid-December after its Q3 earnings, resulting in a 17% drop in just 3 trading days. That's hundreds of billions of dollars in value. Despite beating on almost every major metric, an expected hit to gross margin and flat growth estimates in its non-AI business lines saw investors take profits. So this leads me to the end. Is Broadcom's position actually safe? While customers may be frustrated with Hock's steep prices, there's a reason he can charge them. It comes down to physics. Nvidia dominates the logic layer, the ones and zeros that scale with code, but moving data through a copper wire at near light speed is an analog physics problem. The most critical technology Broadcom owns is the SerDes, the serial deserializer. This is the interface that moves data on and off the chip. Broadcom has spent decades mastering these physics, and without world-class SerDes, you simply cannot build a functional, large-scale AI chip. If you want proof of Broadcom's staying power, just look at Apple. It's the king of vertical integration. They build their own CPUs, GPUs, and power chips, yet for more than a decade, they failed to replace Broadcom's chips in the iPhone. If Apple can't kick Broadcom out, good luck to anyone else. My big takeaway from this video and this research I did is something like this. In this once-in-a-lifetime AI boom, we are watching the ultimate test of moats. Everyone wants to break each other's moats to get the better AI economics, but moats built on physics and hard tech and manufacturing, they take years to crack. Broadcom is one of the few companies that wins no matter who comes out on top in the AI race. And unlike other tech leaders, Hock isn't romanticizing AI and making bold promises about the future of society. He's just monetizing the moat he identified back when he bought Broadcom. And it just happens to be the most lucrative moment in history to do it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you love digestible, easy to understand videos on the future of business and AI, people absolutely loved this video I made and this video I made, and I think you will too.